You're listening to High Frequency Healing on the Superpower Up podcast, the show that explores the awakening of superpowers through higher dimensional healing.
Hello, this is AngelaMaría, one of the Superpower Up hosts, and you are listening to High Frequency Healing Show. The only difference between where you are to where you want to be is the actions you take here and now to heal your life. So let's take a deep breath and be here and now. I invite you to enjoy this time together. Please, let's welcome Gitte Lassen to my show. Today we will be talking about self-love, revolutionary healing. Gitte is the Self Love Alchemist and founder of Revolutionary Self-Love. She teaches whole life success as an expression of self-love to women for whom total life success is a spiritual journey of deep personal transformation. With crystal clarity, she guides conscious, sensitive, and highly sensitive women to become the magnificent, powerful women they absolutely love to be. Gitte uses a multidimensional approach to all the coaching and mentoring she does, from the esoteric to the most solidly physical, from the highest spiritual to the most grounded practical. Join me to welcome Gitte Lassen. Hi, Gitte.
Hi, Angela. It's very nice to be here. Did I say your name right?
Yes, you did. Let's start asking you, what's your healing superpower?
What is my... See, I should have prepared this better, because what is my healing superpower? I think my healing superpower is that I have spent 30 years on my own personal transformation. And that means I'm very clear. I don't bring my own stuff into my clients' problems. I don't project. I am able to see clear. And I think my superpower is also that I read my client as an open book. They often complain about this, like, oh, I can't hide anything from you. You're reading me like an open book. So maybe that's my super healing power.
Thank you for sharing, and I love that. Gitte, could you please take us back to your early years and name one memorable life lesson that is useful for you today?
One thing that comes to mind, actually, in my first career, or my real life education, whatever you want to call it, my normal life education, I'm a geophysicist. And when I was at the university studying, I did a field trip to a Greek island of Santorini. And, I was young, in my 20s, out partying. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember, I was probably partly drunk, at least, coming back. And then one of my classmates says, Gitte, you're okay even if you're really strange. And, at that time, it hurt. I tried my whole life to be normal, but it really, really, really hurt that people, saw me for being strange when I tried so hard to be normal and just like the rest of them, right? And I actually think that was the maybe one of the turning points that really started me on my path of personal transformation, because what was wrong with me that I was not normal, right? Mm-hmm. And of course now it's different. It's like, thank God I'm not normal.
I really love your sharing that with us, because I believe that some of us, or most of us, have gone through a moment in our lives when we don't feel that normal, but we do feel the need to fit into a quotation normal world. And that's tough. That's tough when you feel that you need to be somebody else to be loved, to be accepted, and to be valued. Instead of being valued and loved and accepted for whom you are, you need to be somebody else. So thank you for sharing that, Gitte. And I know we're going to talk more about it. But before we keep going, where can people go to find out more about you?
Probably the smartest place to start is with my website, gittelassen.com. So it's my name.com. And I also have a Facebook group that's called Women's Revolutionary Self Love. So in that Facebook group, I hang out every day and interact with the group members. So that's maybe also a good place to find me.
Yeah, that's a great group. If you are looking for a place to know more about Gitte and the work that she does and just get in contact with her energy, the Facebook group is a great, really good start. We've been talking with Gitte Lassen about self-love, revolutionary healing. When we come back from this short break, we are going to talk more about her healing superpowers. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you here to change the world? Do you talk about things like vibration, frequency, awakening, and consciousness? Are you pretty sure you have superpowers? The Superpower Net is unlike normal coaching programs and conscious communities. We provide training, intuitive guidance, peer-to-peer learning, intensive one-on-one coaching, and a high vibrational network of people just like you. When you join the net, you get 24/7 access to a collaborative group of people who support you as you master your personal power and unlock your superpowers. If you're ready to use your superpowers to change the world, then join the Superpower Net today. Visit superpowerexperts.com/thenet to learn more.
We're back. You're listening to High Frequency Healing. Today, we are talking with Gitte Lassen about self-love, revolutionary healing. Was there a burning bush moment, Gitte, that made your heart desire changing your path in life?
Yes, actually there was. As I already mentioned, my education was a geophysicist. That was way back in the 80s. And then in 1991, the summer of 1991, when I was traveling to Mexico, I came across a book that was called, Do It, Let's Get Off Our Butts. Anyway, it had an exercise in it to find your purpose in life and the big dream. And I did that exercise because I was just at the crossroad. I had finished my education in geophysics. I have a master's in geophysics, but I was really being called in a different path, in a different direction. I did that exercise. I really put myself into it. And I found out that my purpose in life is to be a powerful healer. And that my big dream was actually be helping people with the personal transformation, reach empowerment, through workshops and lectures and one-on-one sessions. I use different words, it's almost 30 years ago, but ever since, I have stayed true to my purpose. The outer form has changed, but I have always lived that purpose, whatever I have done ever since.
And I love that. And I appreciate that you just went through that situation, because now we have this blessing to share our lives with you and being able to enjoy all the power that you have for us to this world that really, really need people like you, Gitte.
Well, thank you.
What does self-love, revolutionary healing mean to you?
I've been thinking about this for a long time. It's like, over these 30 years where, I've lived my purpose, obviously the form I have been living my purpose has changed as I have changed. And self-love is sort of the latest evolution of that. And I have a feeling it's going to be the last one. And it's still kind of in the process of getting clear, but I do believe that self-love is the fastest path to empowerment. And as we were just talking about before we started the interview, it's like, I know empowered people who don't have self-love. So self-love and empowerment are not the same things. They are not equal. They're not the same. But I do believe that self-love is the fastest path to empowerment. And I have actually not seen many people use that approach. And then empowerment is just a place where you reach, where you feel confident and empowered, you have boundaries, you express your truth. But then the next step up from that is sovereignty, which is, sovereign has to do with like being regal, being majestic. The way I see it is you're more self-determining, you take really full responsibility for yourself, and you feel so comfortable with all that, really own it and really embrace it. And you can only get there through self-love. And then the next step is, from empowerment to sovereignty, the next level is magnificence. And for that, you gotta have self-love. So if you ever want to go beyond empowerment, it requires self-love. Go ahead.
No, that I just love the way that you said it. Self-love is the fastest path to empowerment. And I do believe, and especially in my personal situation, my experience, the best way for me to be able to heal my life was when I realized that I really needed to love myself more than anybody else and anything else in the world. And that's when I really start this revolutionary healing, when I said, I need to heal my self-love. I need to love myself. I need to find out what was that broke into pieces this self-love in my life or in past lives. In that way, it's going to be easier for me to put this puzzle together and be able to be the person I am meant to be in this world and do the service that I need to be for myself and for the world. So thank you for this, Gitte. I do believe that not just women, but all the human beings, we need to go to self-love. We need to check that in our lives and make sure that we have it at a great level. It's like top 100 for us to be able to empower themselves and be able to create from consciousness what we want.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I would even go that far. Now that we're talking about empowerment, I'm just kind of like letting the thoughts roll through my head right now, is that I would say that self-love is more important than empowerment. Because when you make life choices or any relationships or anything is based on self-love, there is so much harm that will not be done, and there is so much hurt that will not be done. So I was thinking that in order to heal the planet, to heal everything that's wrong in the planet, you can only do that if people have self-love. Because until people have self-love, there will still be corruption, there will still be, wars, there will still be domestic abuse, there will still be child abuse, there will still be all these things wrong, because those people, they don't have any self-love. They have empowerment, many of them, they don't have self-love.
Yes. So let me ask you this question. How do you guide women to empower themselves through self-love to start this healing path?
It's a good question. I mean, you talked about, you were broken in the past, and, some of that is definitely past life. Some of it is the collective unconscious. Some of it is like, astral beings we pick up that, affect us negatively. And then there's also the childhood brokenness, the trauma growing up in a dysfunctional family. And all of that has to be healed for sure, because that's in the way of the self-love. But then there's the other part that to me is really, really, really important. And I really want people to pay attention to this. Because in order for me to show what self-love looks like, I have to live it. And that means my energy has to resonate in a frequency of self-love. So when people who don't have self-love, they come into my presence, this can sound very arrogant, but I have noticed it's true. When they come into my presence, my energy starts, influencing their energy frequencies, and it increases their energy vibration to one of self-love also. So when they're around me in retreats or workshops, they get to experience exactly what it feels like to have self-love, just by their energy shifting into vibration of self-love by being in my presence, because that's what I radiate. Did that sound very bragging and arrogant?
No, not at all.
I'm very sorry if it did.
I would add that is part of your superpower healing. It's that high vibration of self-love that is shared energetically with the people around you, Gitte. And I think that is super powerful, because you said something that is really, really important. I realized when I was going through this process that I didn't even know how was to feel self-loved. I didn't have any idea. So what you said made a lot of sense. Being with somebody that has that energy, that frequency vibrating higher, you can feel it, is part of that process, that we can realize this is how it feels.
Yes.
To love yourself.
Yes. And I think it's really important that people realize that, because you can't learn self-love from somebody who doesn't have it. Mm-hmm. And an example here is, just a recent example. I had a client. She had been with a therapist for 13 years. She got in some help. Then she is with me for less than a year. And it's the first time in 20 years she has not been depressed. And it was just like 10 sessions or so. It wasn't very much. She has not been depressed for the first time in 20 years. She's been with a therapist for 13 years, a regular therapist, right? And she had joy in her life, and she had self-love in her life, and she began to feel a sense of worth and hope. And I believe that this is because I am a living example of how life is when you live it from self-love. And that's what people need. They don't need another therapist who don't know how to love themselves. Sorry, can you hear my earrings?
A little bit. That's fine. Gitte, so talking about all of this energy vibration, high energy vibration in self-love, besides that, how does it look to show women who have been broken inside how to live full out and fill their lives with beauty, joy, and love? What else is that you do, that you work with them, that help them to go through this path?
This is like, I'm not quite sure where you want to go with this question, but let me try to answer this. It's like, I take people, either one-on-one session or different programs, or I especially love doing live workshops or retreat, where you get to experience how beautiful life is when you're living it from self-love. Like every moment becomes such an exquisite delight of savoring the beauty and the joy right in this moment. And when I work with people, here's another superpower, right? Mm-hmm. It's like I like to take people to places that have special energies, like power places or places with a special spirit. And one of the things I did in England, where I just was, we went to this beautiful ruins of an abbey, and there was such a big presence of a female spirit there, a feminine spirit, that has so much majesty and glory. And we just absorbed that whole presence. It was just a phenomenal moment. You're just there absorbing just this majesty, magnificence of this feminine female spirit that we all have. This was a teaching lesson for us. So I don't know if I'm answering the question, what you're aiming for here.
Yes. I just would like to have an idea about this self-love. How does it look like when it's in terms of healing, this revolutionarily healing? But I love what you said, and I think that's something important, because part of what we need to do is connect to our feminine energy. And connecting to our feminine energy means to listen to ourselves and also get in connection with our master guides, angels, spirits, whatever you wanna call them, because that's part of our feminine that we have just been left out for a while, just because that wasn't something that we could see or touch. So in this culture, that esoteric, that energy that couldn't be felt doesn't exist. And I think that right now this is changing, and it has to change.
Yes, it actually has to change.
Yes, we need to go back to integrate that feminine energy with this masculine energy that we have developed from years, centuries, and past lifetimes. And it's time just to put them together so we can really manifest what we really want.
I totally get you now, and this is why I called it revolutionary self-love, because it's like I don't know about you and everybody who listens to this, but I used to whenever I heard the word self-love, I would think about taking a bath with candles and some essential oils and some nice music, right? It feels very nice. It's like I'm that bored by it, but it's like that's not enough, that you're not going to get real self-love from that. And the way I do it is, yes, there is the childhood things that needs to be cleared and healing, and I have a very strong background in that. But then I also really like working with the energies of people, and I like to again, it's like making people feel, not just talk about, not just think about, not just explain, but feel who they really are when they're at the most magnificent. And that means, I don't know how this happens. This is magic, but it's like they become aware of the maybe the archetypal energies that they carry. Like, for example, in England again, there was a woman there, and as we were going through the week, it's like it became more and more clear that she carried the energy of a queen.
Whoa.
And we can say all women are queens. I agree that. But there was something more that was so royal. It was true royalty queen, like you imagine the energy of a queen. And we ended up doing kind of a ceremony in a big cathedral where we actually crowned her, where we knelt for her and crowned her. And I have goosebumps when I'm talking about this, but it was a very, very special moment. It's like helping women to know themselves at not just a three-dimensional being, as you mentioned, but there's so much more to you. And trying just to teach self-love in like a three-dimensional reality, it's like trying to squeeze you into a box that you don't fit in because you're so much bigger.
I love that. What revolutionary
self-love is, right?
You need to say it again, please. Teaching self-love in third dimension is...
I can't remember what I said, but trying to squeeze you into a three-dimensional box and teach you self-love there, it's not going to work because you're way bigger than that and you exist on so many dimensions. And that's all of you also. This is why it's revolutionary self-love, because it's not three-dimensional, it's multi-dimensional, right?
Yes, and that's why this show is called High Frequency Healing, because it is not just about the body. It's not just about the physical body. It's something that goes beyond words, beyond what our mind can really understand and picture. And this makes a lot of sense. And that's what I wanted to go. I wanted to go to the point where our audience can understand why it's revolutionary. Because it's different. Because it's not from the normal standards that we have heard about self-love and about healing. It's something bigger, it's something farther, it's something intangible, but absolutely real, clear, and powerful.
Yes, and I don't think you can ever really feel self-love until you actually go there.
Yes, absolutely. So Gitte, I'm curious about your coaching and mentoring, because that goes from the esoteric to the most solidly physical. From the highest spiritual to the most grounded practical. And I love that. And you have been explaining a little bit about it. So could you please expand that more for us?
Yes, I will be happy to. It's like it has to do with like we are multidimensional beings, right? And we do live in a three-dimensional world. And in order to function well in a three-dimensional world, we have to be super practical. It's like, it's very nice to live in the higher dimensions, but if you spend most of your time and put your awareness in the higher dimension, it's very, very difficult to get your three-dimensional world to work right. So self-love is also, it's not only and it's not mostly, but it's also happening in the three-dimensional world. So just a little thing, like I have it's like one of the things I teach is like, just make your bed every morning because you deserve it. It's just a tiny little thing of self-love, but it's very practical, right? It's like a physical proof that you're worth something that's self-loving. And the whole thing about making money, it's like, you got to be practical to make money. It's very nice that you can channel and you can work with all the energies, but you're going to be practical if you're going to get it to work in the three-dimensional world. And a lot of the work I do is actually, I feel sometimes I'm hauling my clients down from the higher dimensions and, get them anchored in the three-dimensional world so they can get that part of their lives to work also. And the reason why it's important is that the three-dimensional world is the foundation you're standing on when you are expanding up into the higher dimensions. And you know what happens if you don't have a strong foundation? You're going to crash.
Mm-hmm.
It's like building castles in the air. Yeah, they're going to collapse because there's no foundation. And this is something that's, and the other part of it is like being really anchored in the three-dimensional world also actually makes you a better channel. Because it's like the facts, like just the facts of the three-dimensional world. It's like when you're firmly anchored in those, you don't get confused with your interpretations and assumptions and skewed codependence perceptions or the filters of your childhood trauma. They don't interfere with the higher dimensional channeling then. Did I explain that well enough?
Yes. And I was just thinking about this part because I think it's a balance that we really need to create. We are and we choose to be in this third dimensional world. The fact that we are talking about high frequency healing and self-love revolutionary healing from other dimensions and just getting in touch with those esoteric and etheric energies, that doesn't mean that we need to move and live up there. That means that we need to bring that energy and integrate it so we can anchor ourselves in this third dimensional world and we can create down here in this third dimensional world. And that is something that we need to be aware because nowadays a lot of people are just misinterpreting this, thinking, so I need to meditate all day long. I need to all day long. I can't eat, I can't dance, I can't enjoy this life because I need to be spiritual. And it's nothing like that. So I love that you make that clarity.
Mm-hmm. I actually believe that spirituality that is not grounded in the three-dimensional world is in many parts an avoidance method.
Yes.
It's avoidance the pain of the three-dimensional world. And, you and I know it's painful to be here sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's painful to heal your childhood trauma. It's painful a lot of the past life, and now we go up in the other dimensions again. It's like way easier to just like float up into the higher dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, what happens is that whatever you want to change in your physical or three-dimensional life is not going to change because you're not really there.
Absolutely. Gitte, thank you. Thank you so much because I really love when I find somebody that we are just like vibrating in the same frequency and we have the same message to share with the world.
Yep.
So could you please share with us 2 steps or 2 tips for anyone that is listening to us to start this healing process through revolutionary self-love. Things that are easy to do at home while they get the courage and the money to call you and say, hey, Gitte, I would like to work with you.
Well, tip number 1, join my Facebook group, Women's Revolutionary Self-Love. I do a Facebook Live every Thursday there, where I talk about different aspects of self-love. There's a whole bunch of videos there, a question and answer session. So that is definitely a tip. Mm-hmm. A second tip is, I like to think of it as life's little luxuries. Because a lot of times when you go into self-love and you want to treat yourself to something, it becomes, you're up for a grand gesture, like a trip to Paris, or, I don't know, like an expensive new dress. It's like an expression of self-love. And that's wonderful, especially if you can afford it, which is not always the case, but you do it anyway, leap of faith, because you want to make the affirmation that you deserve, you deserve it. Self-worth is an aspect of self-love. But the problem here is that if you're not used to giving yourself good things, like giving yourself a big good thing is too far out of your comfort zone, so you're going to pull back. Mm-hmm. So it's like from one extreme to the other. So if you do like life's little luxuries, it's like every day or several times a day, do just little, give yourself a little treat. It doesn't have to cost anything. It can be like just stand outside and take 10 deep breaths and smell nature. It's a little luxury. And as you keep doing these little luxuries, it's like you build up proof that you deserve it. Right? It's like the cumulative proof. Nobody died because you did something good for yourself and you loved yourself enough to treat yourself, and God didn't punish you because you decided to love yourself, a little bit in this way. So in this way, you step by step build up proof that you do deserve it, and it's okay to love yourself. It is like building a wall brick by brick by brick. If you do it that way, it's like it will stay, rather than like just throwing up like a wall of, I don't know, grass or something like that. It's going to collapse. So that was tip number 2. And you wanted 3?
Yes, go ahead. Go for it. I love to.
It's actually to give yourself new experiences. They don't have to be like extremely new experiences, but there's something about, one of the great things, for example, about going on vacation is like to have new experiences. It makes you feel so alive somehow. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I'm just taking notes because I'm going to start practicing this, because I believe that you never finish building strong self-love. And I really would like to go to my next lifetime with the strongest self-love to be able to serve others better. So I feel it. I have experienced that without that intention, but now, from now on, that's going to be my intention. I'm just going to live these new experiences because I need to prove to myself the feeling of loving myself.
Yes. And when you have new experiences, it makes you feel so alive. And it makes you feel happy, like 90% of the times. And it's too easy to save new experiences for vacation. But there's like 350 more days in the year where you can also give yourself new experiences. So what I have been doing, I happen to be an introvert and a highly sensitive person, so I need a lot of alone time. So I've actually created a structure for myself, a weekly structure that one day of the weekend, I kind of drop out of life, become a couch potato, do not much of anything, because I need my solitude. And the second day of the weekend, I give myself a new experience. And those two things combined is like a stroke of genius of self-love for me that really keeps my energy high, keeps me so excited about my life all the time.
I love that. And I think we need to learn how to create that excitement about our lives every day. And I also appreciate what you said before. It's not about expensive things. Of course, if you can afford it, go for it anytime you want. But it's also about those simple things that they don't require financially for you to get, and create that emotion and that feeling of self-love. That also, I just feel that is also providing you the feeling of power. I have the power to make myself feel this way because I'm creating this experience as a new opportunity for me to be alive and to feel happy. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Gitte.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope everybody who listens to this, they start with these life's little luxuries and give themselves new experiences. And here's another thing that I wanted to say is like, a lot of time people resist structure in order to go with the flow because somehow that is more spiritual. But this is where, you know, it comes with like living in a three-dimensional world, right? When you are a three-dimensional being, structure gives you freedom. So when I created this structure of how I wanted to spend my weekends, like one day doing nothing, one day adventure, it's like my joy overall in my life got so much higher because I created that structure rather than just coming to the weekend and see, well, this is in the flow right now, which often ended up with I did nothing at all and wasted the weekend now.
Yes, and I think it's also then the fact that we need to give a new meaning to structure. Structure doesn't mean boring. Structure doesn't mean inflexible. Structure means I have a plan. This is what I'm going to do. And that is structure. Yeah. So I love that concept too, Gitte. Thank you.
Yes.
Let's remind listeners once again where they can go to find out more about you.
My website, for one, is www.gittelassen.com, and it's GITTELASSEN.com. And then my Facebook group, Women's Revolutionary Self-Love.
Gitte, thank you so much for sharing your healing superpowers. It was not just one. You shared with us more than one. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Angela.
It was a pleasure to have this conversation with you. And
thank you for having me.
And thank you, all of you, for joining us. I am AngelaMaría, Conscious Creation. Change actions, shift energy to live heaven down here on earth. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the superpower quiz today.